So I just saw Turning Red by the newest Pixar joint, and I thought it was pretty okay. That's what I would say, is that it's pretty okay. Now, my relationship with Pixar is that I think, like a lot of people my age, I grew up with a lot of their classic films, and I would say that their first run of movies, up until I would say Toy Story 3, are pretty much all good. They're all bangers. And that's what gave Pixar the reputation. But then after Toy Story 3, they had a lot of misses. A lot of movies that just didn't really work that well. Um, but then they made the movie Inside Out, which was like a turning point where you felt like, ooh, they're going back to their start. They're going back to their good quality, I guess. By the way, there's like a ticking noise in here. So like, just like my fucking fire alarm. So if you're wondering what that is, it's a fire alarm. Keep going off. I'm sorry about that. It's going to be distracting, but you just have to live with it. And I think it started a new wave, but not a wave that I would have liked. Instead of it being like good movies, it just kind of this new wave, which I think we're currently in, and I don't think Pixar's going to get out of, is this wave of mediocre films. We're not talking about the sequels, by the way, because after Toy Story 3, Pixar started doing like a bunch of fucking sequels, and they have their own problems. I'm talking about the original Pixar films, specifically. I feel like they have this problem where they have this message that they want to say, and I feel like before they even come up with the story, they think of the message, and then they spend the whole last act, this huge mess, just to like say the message of the film, and it's usually incredibly just horribly structured, and the first two acts are just awkwardly building up to it. And yeah, I think this film also does that. It's a pretty good example of that problem. I don't hate this movie. Turning Red, it's definitely one of those movies where it kind of became a thing on Twitter. Don't go on Twitter, by the way. It became a thing on Twitter of people saying like, "Oh, I can't like this movie because I can't relate to the main character," blah blah blah. And then people say like, "Oh, if you don't like this movie, you're a racist." And so I started adding to that dumb culture war debate shit. I don't want to be part of that. I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. I think because it has so many good qualities about it, it's going to have a higher rating than you would expect. But overall, it's just not a movie I'd ever rewatch. Not because I couldn't relate to the main character. That's probably the best part of the movie, is the main character. She is so unique, I guess. Unique to me, from my perspective. But within the world of Pixar, I suppose she's not like the other protagonists, but she has such a charm. She's immediately likable. You immediately just like her and all of her friends. She has a great group female friends that's always with her, and they have very identifiable personality traits, and every time there's scenes with them, it's always really a lot of fun to watch. The animation is of course gorgeous. It's a Pixar movie. They can basically do this with their own blindfolds at this point. The direction was good, especially at the beginning when we were being introduced into this world. It has very stylish, colorful direction that I wish they maintained throughout the whole thing, but I'm not going to mark it against this film. Yeah, my biggest problem really is that last act. It feels like Pixar has just a really hard time nailing that last act of a film. They always just spend way too much time like overstating what the message of the film is. And I don't want to act like this is just a Turning Red problem. This is more just a problem with Pixar in general. I actually really liked this director's previous short film that she made, Bao. Very good short film. Very good. Probably one of the Pixar's best short films they've ever made. So if you want to see that, you can check that out. And there's, of course, a few nods to that film in this movie. Unfortunately, I feel like the message of the film is a bit confused. Basically, if you don't know, it's about a girl who turns into a big red panda. And there's a metaphor that this movie, that at first I think is obvious to people about what the metaphor is about. And it got people mad online. But then they state what the literal thing is that they're making a metaphor for, which makes it confusing, as though makes you realize that it's not even just the panda isn't a metaphor for the thing you thought it was. Like, why bring up the literal thing if that's what it's a metaphor for? And I kind of realize as the film goes on that they're kind of subverting your expectations in a way, I guess, because you find out that the metaphor is something else entirely. At least my interpretation. Not that this movie is like some crazy David Lynch nightmare of interpretations or whatever. but I could see someone else coming to a different conclusion than I did necessarily. Again, Pixar is at its top of its game in terms of animation and direction. They are the best in the business for that. I don't think anything else comes close. And so for that, I have to give it some high points. Just not something I particularly love. Not because of any cultural reason. Just because of the problems I've already stated. I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. And yeah, it's pretty, yeah. If you think that this is a movie that you're going to love, yeah, you'll probably love it. And kids will probably love it too. So, yep, that's it. That's my review. Bye.